Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unpack a pretty legendary, timeless folktale from the court of King Krishna. We're looking at the famous wit of Tenali Rama and how exactly he handled a genuinely terrifying situation, a targeted home invasion. Honestly, if you're looking for a total masterclass in crisis management and just completely outsmarting your opponents, you are in the exact right place. Let's get to it.
Now picture this for a second. We've got a kingdom that's totally gripped by an escalating wave of thefts. The fear is palpable, the citizens are absolutely terrified, and things have reached a complete boiling point. King Krishna is pacing his court, just literally pulling his hair out in frustration. He looks at his absolute most trusted advisors and asks this urgent question. Can anyone suggest a way to teach these thieves a lesson? It's a seriously tense moment. You've got various courtiers stepping up, throwing out all these different suggestions and strategies, but none of them are hitting the mark. The king is just not having it. He's completely unsatisfied. Because the kingdom needs a real, actionable solution right now, not just another theory.
Well, the crisis escalates really quickly because these thieves get so incredibly bold that they eventually target the home of the absolute cleverest man in the court. Yep, a notorious gang starts prowling right around Tenali Rama's house. Now, how would you or I react to this? Probably panic, right? Total fear, barricading the doors, shouting for the guards, the whole shebang. But Tenali Rama's reaction is entirely different. He spots these guys lurking in the shadows outside, but instead of freaking out or sounding the alarm, his mind just instantly shifts into high gear. He sees an opportunity, and right then and there, he starts cooking up a seriously cunning plan. So what exactly does he do? Well, he puts on a show. Later that night, knowing full well that these thieves are eavesdropping right outside his window, Tenali Rama starts talking to his wife. But he doesn't whisper. Oh, no way. He deliberately cranks up his volume so it echoes out into the dark, and he shouts, "Listen, put our most valuable things in this big trunk. I will hide it in the pond behind the house." It is just a beautifully executed piece of acting. He wants them to hear every single syllable. He is basically handing them the blueprints to his treasure. Or, so it seems. Now, what's really fascinating here is the whole psychology of the thieves. They hear this loud, panicked husband just desperately trying to protect his wealth, and they completely fall for it. Hook, line, and sinker. Their own greed totally blinds them to what's actually going on. They're standing out there in the dark, eyes wide, already anticipating this massive trunk just bursting with gold and silver. They think they've just stumbled onto the easiest, most lucrative heist of their entire lives. Their greed makes them entirely predictable, and that, my friends, is exactly what Tenali Rama is counting on to make this whole thing work. But meanwhile, behind closed doors, a wildly different scene is playing out. There is absolutely no gold going into that box. Actually, scratch that, there's nothing even remotely valuable. Tenali Rama calmly and quietly fills this massive trunk with heavy, worthless stones. Once it's packed to the absolute brim, he hauls this ridiculously heavy trunk out to the back and just heaves it into the pond with a giant splash. Notice the contrast here, right? Tenali is using his calm, cool intellect to set a trap. He's prepping a brutal, back-breaking night of physical labor for these thieves who are still hiding in the bushes, completely clueless about what's actually waiting for them at the bottom of that pond. Okay, so the trap is set. Let's walk through exactly how this plays out for our unsuspecting thieves. Step 1, they wait patiently for the dead of night, just making sure nobody's watching. Step 2, they gotta wade deep into this freezing, muddy pond. Step 3, they find the trunk underwater, and oh man, it is incredibly heavy. They're slipping, they're sliding, they're struggling in this freezing cold water, burning through all their physical strength, just trying to drag this monstrously heavy box out of the muck and onto the shore. They are totally exhausted, but hey, they're thrilled, right? And then we get to step 4. They pry open the lid, expecting the bright gleam of gold and silver, only to find a bunch of wet rocks. Yep, all that backbreaking labor for absolutely nothing. And just when you think it literally cannot possibly get any worse for these guys, the door to the house slowly opens, and out steps Tenali Rama, looking super fresh, warm, and just perfectly well-rested in the morning light. He looks at these freezing, mud-soaked, exhausted thieves and delivers the ultimate punchline. He goes, "Hey brothers, thank you for working so hard. I've wanted to pull this heavy trunk out of the pond for days but couldn't do it alone." I mean, wow. It is an absolute masterpiece of sarcastic politeness. He doesn't yell at them, he doesn't threaten them with the king's guards, he just graciously thanks them for doing his heavy yard work. The humiliation is just absolute. And the realization just hits the thieves like a ton of bricks, or, wet rocks. They suddenly understand just how completely and thoroughly they have been played by the court jester. Realizing their total foolishness, stripped of all their pride, freezing cold, utterly exhausted, and just completely outsmarted, they don't even try to fight back. They just turn and flee into the morning mist in utter shame. I mean, think about it. Tenali Rama just solved his own major security crisis without ever lifting a finger in anger or even drawing a weapon. So the crucial point is, well, let's fast forward to the very next day. Word of this brilliantly executed trap reaches King Krishnadevaraya, and the king is just thoroughly amused. He's laughing heartily and praising Tenali, pointing out that he wins his battles not with a sword, but with his mind. And it really all comes down to this core contrast, sword and brawn. You know, the brute force the thieves tried to use, and the conventional panic most people default to, versus wit and intelligence, which is completely Tenali's domain. As Tenali so beautifully explains to the king, where intellect can do the work, the need for brute force is massively reduced. It's just a highly elegant solution to a really dangerous problem. Which brings us to the core takeaway from this incredible folktale, and it's something directly applicable to us today. Now sure, we might not be dealing with literal thieves lurking in a freezing pond outside our windows, but we all face sudden, high-stress situations. So what does this all mean for us? Next time a crisis hits, what are you going to choose? Panic or your intellect? Tenali Rama teaches us that when trouble comes knocking, keeping a cool head and deliberately engaging your brain is almost always more effective than reacting with blind fear or force. Let that sink in the next time you feel the urge to panic. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, keep using that intellect.